everybody. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. I hope you're doing well out there. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great, and appreciate you stopping by. We're not going straight out the bottle today. We're going classy. Um, we're trying to filter. We're trying to move on. We're trying to gather ourselves as the practice week is going to begin. Because we do need the troops to rally against Boston. And I hate all things New England. So we gotta get at this thing. Mike Vrabel and his Tennessee days has done his work against Tua for sure. You got Xavier Howard out here saying the book is out. The book is out on Tua. I'm very curious. It is gonna be interesting. I think Tua's press conference tomorrow is going to be appointment viewing for everybody. Certainly curious to see what he's going to say about the Xavier Howard thing. I don't know if anyone's going to ask. I know that he got a lot of heat for the whole I'm going to see what teammates are out here responding. I guess he's going to be asked about it because I'm sure the reporters are going to ask him, what did you think of the response from everybody? Because you laid it out there. And yeah, so I am curious because I feel like we got half in, half out accountable with a little side of testy. So I'm curious to see. Mike McDaniel, you'll hear a lot of yammering. From my standpoint, it's a very big week, obviously. I described this on the radio show last week as a line in the sand game, and that was before the loss because I felt like the Miami Dolphins had been already an afterthought, a cast afterthought behind the New England Patriots. Foregone conclusion. It felt like everybody, just because they had Mike Vrabel, that they were going to jump everybody. The Dolphins did nothing good to put my hopes to reality, but neither did the Patriots. The Patriots did lose to the Las Vegas Raiders, and I am curious. This does feel like a huge game right out of the gate for all of these guys, for the Dolphins, for New England. The Dolphins particularly need to load up because we know what's on the other side on Thursday Night Football. I mean, we saw what Daniel Jones did. I mean, I shudder to think after a performance like that what Josh Allen is going to do. I mean, it doesn't matter what the Dolphins seem to do against him. He always finds a way to kick their butt. So this is, I mean, it feels gigantic. I think sometimes in sports you could just sense where it's at. And Stephen Ross, very silent. And I'm curious for those who are going to be boots on the ground on Sunday, what that's going to be like when Stephen is in the building. If they don't win, what is he going to be like? What is going to be his attitude? What is going to be the demeanor? Does it get to a point where he's so embarrassed that he feels like he has to do something? And I don't know. I don't know if that's the case. Look, the Dolphins could bounce back in a big way, but I tell you one thing that doesn't put me at ease, and that is that that the Dolphins are going to probably have a new right side of the offensive line. It seems like they signed today Cole Strange from the Browns practice squad because James Daniels is going to miss, seemingly is going to miss 4 games. He's going to miss a month, which is not great. And then we don't even know what's going to happen with Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson has a toe injury. So we could be going into this thing and it could be, with Keon Smith and Kendall Lamb for all we know, or Larry Borum. And that's just it's just a big ask. It's just like, well, what is that going to turn into? We're already worried about, how the offensive line was looking. You already have a very young, although I do know the metrics were very good on Patrick Paul. That's great news. It seemed like he held his own as everybody else was kind of sticking up the joint. But yeah, I am curious, man. Stephen Ross and his whole thing is really, you gotta wonder. He came right out after the season last year with a statement, And he said, this was his statement: "I want to thank the players and the coach for their hard work through the 2024 season and the fans for their support. As owner of this team, I'm ultimately accountable for our success and failures. We fell short of our expectations this season, and I understand and share the frustration in our performance on the field. As we now look towards 2025, our football operation will continue to be led by Chris Grier and Mike McDaniel with my full support. Their positive working relationship is an asset to the Dolphins, and I believe in the value of stability. However, continuity in leadership is not to be confused with acceptance of status quo, that the status quo is good enough. We will take a hard look at where we have fallen short and make the necessary changes to deliver our ultimate goal of building and sustaining a winning team that competes for championships." Well, it did feel very much. And the thing I remember about this statement that I found crazy is I wonder if he would have felt different if he released this, if he would have just thought it over for 72 hours after their press conference, after all the statements that they would have made. Would Stephen Ross have done anything different? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I remember feeling afterwards that I didn't come away from the season-ending press conference with Mike and Chris and have a lot of faith that they had answers. I didn't. I think they thumbed their nose at a lot of issues last year, and it doesn't really feel like they learned a lot of lessons, other than we got to get guys that aren't respecting Mike McDaniel out of the building. And, you know, that we know what happened with Jalen Ramsey. And I'm still leaving out there this kernel of a couple of things that I feel like McDaniel's going to be the fall guy and Chris Grier is going to stick around. First of all, he's been in the organization for 20 years. Anytime somebody can do that, you always wonder how good are they at saving their own ass. He seems very good at it. And unless somebody amazing comes to do football operations, I don't know who Stephen Ross is going to trust to go to. And my feeling is, even when Chris Grier said a couple of things, there were a couple of things. When Chris Grier said that he has to defer less to coaches, I was like, okay, noted. And when that whole Jalen Ramsey thing was going down, and I'll never forget reading the Armando Salguero article about it, where first I think it was he reported something about wanting a raise, and then came back hours later, not days later, hours later, with a retraction of his own report and said that, nope, this is a Mike McDaniel problem. And by the way, Jalen Ramsey seems to respect the hell out of Chris Grier. And I just thought that lingered quite potently. And I'm just sitting here wondering, well, yeah, they have a good relationship right now, but when the ship starts sinking, the rats start jumping. And so I'm wondering if this starts getting into, because Mike McDaniel's on the sidelines. The GM is usually with the owner, or can be around the owner and speak to the owner. He gets first look. He gets first licks to talk to the guy. This happened with Jeff Ireland and Tony Sparano. I mean, this is what, I mean, those guys were best of friends, family friends. And ultimately, Jeff Ireland had his own family to look out for. And he went on that plane with Stephen Ross to go get Jim Harbaugh and basically went with his boss. He did not go with his friend. I'm not saying what's right or wrong or what anybody should do. I'm just saying what he did. And there's just an element to me, I feel like this is going to end with Mike McDaniel getting fired and Chris Grier sticking around. That's how I feel it's going to end. I feel like there is the potential. The odds makers are out here and they're like, hey, Mike is, and I know this doesn't mean anything, but the odds going into last week, he was the favorite. It was like a 2-1 favorite, plus 200. And now it's minus 200 to anywhere to minus 400 on bookmakers who take action on this kind of thing. So do with that what you will. But it's a big week. I don't think that Mike's going to be able to talk his way out of it because, well, he's just not good at that. But everybody's under siege here a little bit. Like the quarterback, very curious to see he's been through this before. I mean, Tua's been through criticism. He's been through hard stuff before. So, I mean, he does have a plenty of reps at that. But it's definitely the most down. Even people like me who have, believed in the guy, tried to stick through it, wanted to be the most optimistic. Even this kind of game has you wondering, like, hey, has he taken? And it may sound like excuse me, but even I'm trying to just figure stuff out. Like, has he taken too many hits? Like, I remember him saying last year about the hip injury in Alabama, how he just never was the same guy after it. And then he suffers another one last year. And, Leroy and I were talking about this whole, this just the throws just looking off. Just even for him, the easy ones looking off. And this dude just used to be tight. I'm talking about his strengths. All right. You can think about whatever you want to think about. I'm like, but even the things that he was good at, he doesn't look as good at. And so you're wondering if it's just kind of all catching up with him. Which, hey, to the people who were skeptical about paying him, look, you look loud right now, and I look like a bozo. I own it. So we'll have to see. But this to me is going to be a very interesting week because it isn't just playing the Patriots. It's playing the noise. It's playing the ownership. It's playing how do the fans react? What if the Dolphins go out there and they completely wet the bed in the first quarter and the fan base just turns. The fan base just gets ugly. This is a fan base that once chanted for Kyle Orton at a scrimmage. So, like, what happens if that happens? What does the owner do? Does he just, it's probably a big ask to, change coaches with a game in 3 days, but you can be sure, like, the mind might be made up by that point. Like, he'll just look for the week to do it. Even if it's not this week. So, it's a curious thing, man. And then, even with the Tyreek Hill thing today was, it leaves you with questions as well because, Tyreek Hill's a strange wife. This woman is coming for it all on Tyreek Hill, man. Because she not only is looks like she's coming for the money, she's looking like she's ready to torpedo everything about this guy that was left about his public reputation, which wasn't much. It wasn't much of a public reputation as it was. But it does make you wonder, like, hey, if any week TMZ can pick up headlines like the ones they picked up about him this week and gross details that were there, what team is going to deal with that? What team is really going to want to sign up for that, especially if they don't think they're getting the prime guy? And for the Dolphins' perspective, and look, it sucks that you have to put something heinous like this to this, but like from a football perspective, like what do the Dolphins expect to get for that? And that's the interesting, and that it almost felt like that was the reason why they weathered and it felt like the reason they weathered the storm during the off season when all this stuff was kind of coming to fruition, when he had the altercation that was, caught on camera and stuff like that. And that ultimately led to the public divorce. And everybody had said that, oh, he's been more vulnerable and he's been a changed guy and all that. And I'm not saying any of that's not true, but it had almost felt like the Dolphins knew that all of that stuff was basically nuking his value anyway. And the best move for them was to hope he returns to the prime weapon. And we're sitting here looking at, hey, what is it, a year, 365 days since the guy's caught a 30-yard or more pass? I mean, geez. So they just feel like they're a franchise with no good options right now. And it's really, really coming to a head. And all of it just feels like, man, they need a victory on Sunday so bad to just erase the anger, the hostility, the laughter that everybody's seeing, the people who are laughing at this guy, the personal shots, all of it. And really just to I think even for Mr. Ross, like I think he's got to be at a point where like you got to get sick of being the clown, right? Because yeah, the guy's run as owner has been just dreadful. It's been dreadful and embarrassing. It's been, you want to know the thing that's interesting about Stephen Ross, and it's great that he is a great builder of things other than a football team. Because if he wasn't, then he would really have no redeeming qualities. But everybody here, everything here is like a just distraction in Miami Gardens to not focus on his failures as an owner for the football team. And it even comes down to like when Parcells didn't even want to be his guy. Orange carpet, fake bullying committees, to, all right, well, at least I built a tennis center and at least I built a racetrack. Hell, at one time the guy was going to build a water park. And instead he decided, you know what'll go in my football facility? An actual slide. So those are his trophies right now. That's all he has. And like, credit to him and credit to Tom Garfinkel for being the visionary, and Hard Rock's an awesome, way more awesome place to watch a game because of him and the way that he's done things other than the product on the field. Because I guarantee that every Dolph fan watching this would take the piss aroma of the Orange Bowl if it meant watching a better football team as opposed to having a canopy. And that's all you've had. You have no playoff wins. You have no trophies. All you have is getting a little less wet. Not even a full roof, but a little less wet at Dolphins games. And you don't have to dodge traffic if you park at the garage across the street, or if you park in the parking lot across the street, you can walk over a bridge. And maybe you also happen to be a fan of auto racing. I mean, I think auto racing is stupid, but that's just one man's opinion. I don't judge anybody. I love UFC and boxing, and people think I'm an idiot. So I have no use for it. If Stephen Ross, look, to be fair, Stephen Ross has brought some awesome fights. He's brought Canelo Alvarez to Hard Rock Stadium. He's brought Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather. There's been cool boxing events that I've been like, oh, this is awesome that Hard Rock Stadium is like this. I've benefited from it as a fan, but it's not the main thing. Like Pat Riley says, the main thing's got to be the main thing. And the main thing is running and leading the Dolphins to success. And it's just been everything but that. And I don't know who the guys he relies on at this age are anymore. I don't know who the football savior. I hear things like John Gruden. I saw Cowherd today say Belichick, and I'm just like, all right. I know nobody wants another first timer, and I can understand that. But do you also want guys who are also on the verge of being out to pasture? Like, I don't know. They did that with Parcells, and Parcells, I know Parcells was like a babysitter to two idiots, but I don't know what the right answer is. I just know that people are pissed, rightfully so, and that if they get embarrassed, I got a feeling this billionaire is going to take some action. And it's just to feel like he's doing something, right? Because, like I said this today on the radio show, that I didn't like how Mike McDaniel threw Zach Sealer under the bus for basically freelancing on defense, but I know why he did it. I understand he didn't do it out of ill nature. He did it because Zach Sealer can take it. He's a man's man. He's not going to freak out. He's not a little baby. But I also find it disingenuous because you're just doing that. The only reason he's doing that is to show the media, I'll call anybody out. But there's not really any bite to it because it's Zach Sealer. So I'm almost of the opinion, like, just don't call anybody out. Don't do it. Like, if that's not what you do, don't do it. Don't just do it to show you'll do it, but like, this has no teeth to it. So, but I think he feels pressure right now. He feels the need to show, I'm ruling with an iron fist. I'll call out Zach Sealer, the most reliable. It felt phony to me for Mike McDaniel. And I think what everybody's always said about Mike is he's his own guy, he's authentic, and I thought that was a very inauthentic moment from him. I thought it was phony. But this is what the pressure does, and I think that Stephen Ross is going to be no different. I think he's going to feel that, especially if that crowd gets hostile. It's going to be a fascinating thing to see.